Hey YouTube, welcome back. I am doing the second video as promised for job hunting. So a couple of you actually requested this because I think I thought I did a video on this, but I hinted around to some of the timelines that I've done things, and I didn't necessarily put it in one video and kind of explain that. So this video is going to cover some of all of what I did, my experience as usual, and some of what I tell people now, like if you were leaving law school, what I tell you to look at now, and just some job hunting tips that may help you. So I'm going to get into it now. Timeline. So you know from previous videos, I am really big on planning and prepping. You can cut out a lot of money and time if you plan and prep accordingly. So by that I mean keep in mind what you want to do. For me, I'm going to start with my personal experience. I was a full-time employee and a part-time student. So I graduated December 2015. Now, previous to December 2015, I had met with someone in the public defender's office, a manager, and I asked her, typically, what's the timeline? When should I apply? And I think it's important to ask this question when you're dealing with government agencies. That bureaucratic red tape, it can take a while. So what she gave me was a golden nugget because it lined up just perfectly. She told me, you're graduating December 2015. Apply November 2015. I did that. I applied November 2015. Now, in Missouri, when you apply to the public defender's office, they keep your application for 4 months. And then after those 4 months, I think, yeah, it's 4 months, I think so. After those 4 months, you'll have to call and renew it. It says some kind of language where you have to renew it or something that may make you think, oh, I have to resubmit another application. Oh crap. Don't do that. Don't worry about that. I actually called and was like, how do I resubmit my application? I know my expiration date is coming up. And they were like, oh, you just let us know and we put it back in. And I was like, oh, great. So just give them a call on the number that you see. This is particularly for Missouri. But as I'm giving you these tips, keep in mind it could be similar in your state. So it's just to kind of help you and give you where to go. So graduated December, applied in November. Around April, March is when I got a call for the interview. Now, I took the bar, studied for the bar in January to February, took the bar in February, found out my results in April. So March I interviewed for this public defender's position. April, probably the day after I found out my results, which I think it was April the 16th, I'm not sure. But anyway, the day after I found out my results, I was offered the job, or I went on a second interview, something like that. I just remember her saying, congratulations, by the way. So clearly they were looking and making sure that I had passed. So let me pause there because here's the daunting situation at hand. For me, it wasn't bad because I had a job at the time. So I wasn't like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay my bills now that I'm out of school, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what to do. With that in mind, if you can, along the way, plan and prep for that and save that money as much as you can. Because if you can have a little lump sum at the end, that will help you for those of you that are full-time students. For me, I had a job, so I didn't stress as much like, oh my God, I got to find a legal job immediately. I had something that was still paying my bills. But I can understand the dilemma of, okay, I don't have a job. On one hand, and I don't think you're doubting yourself. It's just, for me, I felt like I needed insurance. I wasn't doubting myself, but on one hand, I can apply for this job, I can even get it and I can start working, and the job could be contingent on me passing the bar. So if I don't pass the bar, then I got to tell people I didn't pass. Then I have to deal with my coworker. I mean, not that they'll shame you or anything, but just the added pressure while I'm taking the test or while I'm studying, knowing like if I don't pass, I'm going to have to explain this in my job. I might lose my job. I did not want that. So for me, the PD's office was the only place I applied before I knew whether I had passed or not, because I was like, this is too much. I'm not interested in putting that pressure on myself if I have to take the bar exam again. So with that being said, you choose what works for you, but I didn't. You're kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place, but I didn't want to. Now, for those of you that are like, okay, I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place, what do I do? I had lots of friends who did doc review. They got assignments. They found someone that hires people out of law school to do document review until you pass the bar. Or even if you pass the bar, until you find a job is what it is. And my friend, I have a friend in particular who did document review, and once she got a job, she was actually like, I actually made more money on some of my jobs because you're contracted out. So depending on what job you have, they'll pay you this amount for 2 weeks to do document review or something like that. So one of my friends actually worked this job for months until she got her dream job, which was a compliance job at Wells Fargo. And that's what she wanted to do. That's not courtroom stuff, but that's what her goal was. I remember her telling me that in law school. So it can, and I'm going to add, she also had a daughter. So it can help supplement and pay for things while you're waiting on a job. But it's not one of those issues where you have to wait and not have any money. So keep that in mind. The other thing is, after I finished and I got accepted and I was accepted to the bar, and then I got the job offer, I actually declined the public defender's office only because it was back where I was from, and I was like, I'd have to move. I'm kind of poor. I don't want to move. I don't want to deal with moving. Let me see what I can get. It's kind of early in the process because that was the first job I applied to. Let me step out on faith a little bit and see what I can get. So I started to apply once I found out I passed the bar. Now, that process didn't take long to me because I found out I passed the bar April. I was admitted to the bar April 26, 2016. And then I applied for a job, and I think it was April. And then I interviewed for the job in June. And then I interviewed for the job in May. And then I explained to them, I got a second interview in June. And they basically said, we want to hire you. And I explained to them, the current job that I have, I'm a professional employee, so I have to give 30 days notice. I know, 30 days notice is crazy. I'm really glad they were like, sure, that's okay. Because most jobs would have been like, really? You sure it's not just the 2 weeks? So it wasn't a 2 weeks notice, it was 30 days notice, but they were fine with that, and they said, that's fine, we'll see you in 30 days. So I had a job June 2016, and I'm not saying I didn't apply for other things in between, I did, but because I actually had, I was on my second interview at the public defender's office in St. Louis City and St. Louis County. I also had 2 interviews for the public defender's office in Liberty, like 15 minutes from Kansas City. And they actually chose not to go with me because I didn't hear anything from them after the second interview. So I didn't get it's not like this fairy tale story that I was like, oh, I coasted. So here's some of the websites that I use for job hunting. If you want to work at a firm, go to a specific firm site. Like, for example, firms in St. Louis, Lashley and Bear, be reasonable, because some of these corporate jobs, you're not going to, you know, like in-house counsel, you're not necessarily going to walking out of law school. Armstrong Teasdale, Brian Cave, Thompson Coburn. There's a lot. And this is why it's important to connect to people in law school, because you can call friends who did summer internships and say, how is it? Is it stuffy at the firm? Do they have a problem with natural hair? Like, how is it at this firm? Do they think women should only wear dresses? You can kind of find out the atmosphere and environment. Another thing is they can actually help you with, you know, this is what I said when I interviewed, or these are the questions I remember they asked, different things like that. So it's important to connect to people while you're in law school. It's important to connect to your classmates. You really need to learn, if you haven't already, to make connections no matter where you go, and no matter who it is. Don't look for people with a certain title. That's really a terrible move, and you're a terrible person. So use LinkedIn. I did that. And by use LinkedIn, I mean connect the people that you're connected with. Go look on their page, and you'll see like what firm they're at, and you'll see what firms other people that they know are at. It just kind of provides a web for you to throw out if you're not familiar. Like, let's say if you're moving to St. Louis and you're not familiar with the firms. Go to your bar website. The Missouri Bar website has job openings for lawyers. Sometimes I even see paralegal and legal assistant jobs. So always check your bar website. usajobs.gov, that's a lot of federal, those are the federal positions. But you can find some entry-level positions like, I think it's GS 10 or 11, something like that. If you're interested in being a law clerk, which is, from what I hear, great, because you get to see what the judges think behind the bench before you become a litigator in court, so you can kind of know how to tailor your arguments. It gives you experience being able to watch trials and watch different things in the courtroom, and do opinions and do a lot of writing and research if you like that kind of thing. Sometimes there are 2-year commitments, so you got a job for 2 years for sure. If you're interested in clerking, there's also a lot of, I think, prestige that comes behind clerking. A lot of law clerks that I know have went from law clerks to law firms, big firms. So it looks good. So all the clerks, I was told the website you use for that is called OSCAR. It's OSCAR.uscourts.gov, G-O-V. So it's kind of like the website that they all have to use. I also use this. It's like a public interest job. It's PILSJD. I think it's like public interest legal service or something like that. I don't know. The public defender's website. Your city. So, for example, if you're in St. Louis City and St. Louis County specific website, like the city courts website, the city government website, the county government website, they have the jobs on there. I'm sorry, I got my notes here. Talk to anyone who just got out, anyone who's been out, anyone who's where you want to be, somebody at a firm and you want to be there, talk to them. You need to mention your aspirations, not to the point where it gets on people's nerves, but talk to people about what you want to do, because sometimes when they hear that, sometimes the right person can hear it and say, oh, this is the path you need to follow to do that. So get out there, network. I've said this before, but on your first year out, you need to join as many website organizations as you can, because those organizations, for the most part, are usually free to new attorneys. And you need to join those, and then you need to get connected to the people there. It just kind of connects you easier. The last things are oh, that was it. The organizations. So when you join organizations, the thing about those are a lot of people will send certain jobs just to that organization, or say, let your members know about this job. And as a member, you'll find out about it. So you might want to join different organizations for that reason, to be put in on the mail-in, information. So a lot of it is networking. Like sometimes these the law firm websites won't even have a careers page, but there'll be a job opening, and it's because someone knows someone that told them this person would be good. So consider that and keep that in mind, because sometimes that's how you get the job, just by knowing somebody. So it's not good to be that new attorney that sits at home and is like, yes, I'm an attorney, now I'm going to sit here and do nothing. If you have any other questions, or you want to know specifics about these sites, or you go on these sites and have questions, most of these I've set up an account on, and I know from personally looking, these are sites that I've used myself. So if you have any other suggestions, or you've been through this process and you know some stuff, put it in the comments box to let other people know. And as always, please reach out to me with any questions, any concerns about some of the things I said, some of the things that you're still curious about, and I'll try to get back as soon as possible. So thank you for watching as usual, and I hope you enjoyed this really lengthy video. Bye.